Okay, if everybody could take their seats so we can get started with bridges and tunnels. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Are there public comments? Okay. Okay, go right ahead. Omar?
Good afternoon, everybody. So, Mitch, I'm glad you're here to substitute chair for Chuck.
Yep.
All right. So now on to the business. So I told Chuck last month that the Cross Bay Bridge ought to eliminate all tolls there because you're going within Queens. And it doesn't make sense that if you're going within boroughs, that if you're going within the same borough, intra-borough, that there should be tolls. It doesn't make sense at all. Besides, it's unfair to the Rockaways, residents of the Rockaways, with besides the Rockaway line, the A, and the Rockaway Park shuttle, they don't have any other means besides buses to get across. So if they want to avoid paying the toll, they have to go across Nassau County, which is, of course, you're leaving the city just to return to it. It doesn't make sense. And so I suggest that the Cross Bay Bridge just be returned back to City Hall's control and let them sort it out. Other than that, I appreciate cashless tolling on everything else because, like I said, it's a better way to get across. And with that, so I just reiterated last month. With that, have a great day and see you around.
Thank you very much. Murray?
I've documented a number of legal issues that have not been followed by bridges and tunnels, in specific a particular line, and morally some guide signs. On the basis of the fact that the chief engineer has not followed the law as currently written and causing confusion for drivers, I recommend that the chief engineer of bridges and tunnels be replaced. You knew I was going to say it. This has been going on, and the documentation is in your files. If you need further information, I'll be glad to provide it. But the time of ignoring the law is over. You all stand and tell me to obey the law, and I think it works two ways. You're also required to obey the law. This is one line, but it represents a lot of other things. And if you can't follow the law on that one line, we have a problem.
Thank you very much. That concludes public comments. Can I have approval of the minutes from September 2017? Any motion to approve? Second? Any changes? All approved? Okay. Is there any change in the work plan? No change in the work plan, so let's, President Fulton, it's all up to you.
Good afternoon. Welcome to October 2017 MTA Bridges and Tunnels Committee meeting. There are several bridge and tunnel highlights this month that merit special acknowledgement. The first is the completion of open road cashless tolling at all MTA bridges and tunnel facilities. The Throgs Neck and Bronx Whitestone bridges both went live at 3 a.m. on Saturday, September 30th, ending all cash collection at MTA bridge and tunnel facilities. In its history, the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority collected more than 12 billion cash tolls at the plazas, and those days are gone. Motorists will no longer need to stop to pay tolls, and the entire region will benefit from improved mobility and air quality. As we approach the 5th anniversary of Superstorm Sandy, BNT has taken a significant step forward in the flood resiliency of its tunnels by installing permanent floodgates at the Manhattan entrance of Hugh L. Carey Tunnel and Queens entrance of the Queens Manhattan Tunnel. These floodgates enable the tunnel entrances to be sealed at the most flood-prone locations and supplement temporary measures in effect since Superstorm Sandy. Bridge and Tunnels is continuing to focus on improving its customer safety performance. We have added in this month's its report a compilation by facility of specific mitigation efforts that have been taken to address both ongoing collision challenges and emerging risk areas. I will now ask Danny DiCrescenzo to present the report on operations.
Thank you, President Fulton. The report on operations begins on page 20. To summarize, compared to August 2016, traffic was higher in August 2017 by 1.9%. Easy Pass volume increased by 9.2%. Crossings using tolls by mail, cash, and other payment methods declined 39.3%. Passenger car travel increased by 1.8%, and other vehicle travel increased by 2.8%. Preliminary monthly traffic figures for September 2017 are 1.2% higher than in the same period in 2016. The following are notable changes to Bridges and Tunnels facility operations. As previously stated by President Fulton on September 30th, the Bronx Whitestone and the Throgs Neck Bridges started cashless tolling operations, completing the transition of all bridge and tunnel facilities to cashless tolling operations. On October 11th, the Verrazano Narrows Bridge opened a slip ramp for MTA Express buses, allowing these buses full access of the bridge's HOV lane. Buses can now cross over from the upper to the lower level Staten Island bound to access the Staten Island local exits. This ends the report on operations.
Any questions on operations? For a driver from Long Island to Westchester to visit two of my grandchildren, thank you very much on the Throgs Neck Bridge. It made the trip much more pleasant, both ways, but especially going from northbound. Right, southbound it's okay, but northbound, it made it much pleasant, yes. It's always weekend, yes, always. Any questions on operations? If not, safety.
The report on safety starts on page 33 and highlights our most important lagging and leading indicators shown on the top and bottom tables. The report presents 12-month rolling averages that compare year-over-year performance for key safety indicators. The customer collision rate for the most recent 12 months ending August 2017 was 8.47, an increase from the 8.42 rate for the same period ending July 2017, and the 6.82 rate for the same period ending August 2016. The 12-month average rate for injury collisions increased to 1.03 from August 2017, from 0.98 in July 2017, and is higher than the 0.94 rate for the 12 months ending August 2016. To help address the committee's concerns, additional information has been provided for your review. While total collisions were slightly higher in August 2017 than in the same month of the previous year, there was an increase in collisions with injuries. The total collision rate for the 12 months through August 2017 continued to be higher for every facility than in the previous 12 months. The collisions with injury rates for the 12 months through August 2017 are lower at the RFK, Verrazano Narrows, and Throgs Neck Bridges, and higher at the other B&T facilities than in the previous 12 months. In August 2017, the Bronx Whitestone and Verrazano Narrow Bridges are the primary contributors to B&T's overall collision rate. There have been a wide range of mitigation efforts implemented at B&T facilities in 2017. Key strategies underlying these efforts are reviewing construction zones to make changing traffic patterns safer, including providing for more channelization and softening pinch points, enhancing the physical characteristics of facilities and roadways, including better design and maintenance of permanent line striping, improve customer information, including signage with specific fines for safety violations and variable message signage, enforcement efforts that are focused on safety violations, engaging outside experts to evaluate conditions and recommend best practices. The Texas Transportation Institute is currently conducting fieldwork. Photographs to further illustrate these mitigation efforts are provided for your review. Dan DiCrescenzo will now present more details about B&T efforts to improve customer safety. Dan?
Thank you, Eric. To put into context how B&T applied these mitigation measures, we continued our focused approach and directed our immediate efforts at the facilities which were driving up our collision numbers and collisions with injuries. As I stated at last month's committee, this approach allows Bridges and Tunnels to not only target the facilities which were driving our collision numbers, but also target the specific locations or zones within those facilities. In August, 3 of our 9 facilities saw an increase in collisions when compared to the same month last year, with 2 out of the 3 facilities representing the majority of the collisions. Bridges and Tunnels focused on these facilities and implemented several important mitigation measures. For example, on page 40 in your committee book or on page 4 on the handout, you will see the mitigation measures implemented between July and October at the Verrazano-Narrows Bridge. The Verrazano had the highest number of collisions with injuries for August when compared to August of last year, and was one of the 2 facilities with the highest increase in total collision numbers, with most of these collisions occurring on the upper level Brooklyn bound. The majority of these mitigation measures you see on page 40 or page 4 in your handout were applied to the specific location. These efforts, combined with increased enforcement targeting the upper level Brooklyn bound at the VN, resulted in a 17% decrease of collisions with injuries at that location from August to September. Authority-wide, we continue to have challenges. As preliminary September total collision numbers are higher than September of last year, with the reopening of school and the end of the summer travel season, which brought seasonal changes to traffic flow, and as customers continue to become familiar with our open road tolling, B&T continues to closely monitor the collision data and is concentrating our efforts on the specific locations and facilities which are seeing the highest increase of collisions and collisions with injuries. Although it's still early, and I know I'm jinxing myself, to see the full impact of these combined mitigation measures, and with the completion of the open road tolling across all of the facilities, for October so far, compared to October 2016, we are seeing a reduction in collisions across all of our facilities, with the biggest reductions at our old toll plaza locations. Bridges and Tunnels remains fully engaged with this safety effort. We will continue to provide a safe environment for our customers as they cross our facilities. Thank you. Eric?
Okay. Thanks, Dan. The August 2017 12-month average employee lost time injury rate decreased to 6.6 injuries per 200,000 work hours from 7.3 in July of 2017, and is lower than the rate of 6.7 for the 12 months ending June 2016. B&T is continuously monitoring incidents to identify trends as we transition from toll plaza environment to ORT, and as we observed in the last 5 months, we have achieved an IOD reduction rate of approximately 30% comparing May through September 17 to the same 5-month period of 16. The August 2017 12-month average construction injury rate increased to 1.98 injuries per 200,000 work hours from 1.91 injuries per 200,000 work hours in July 2017, and from the 1.94 rate in the 12 months ending August 2016. This completes the safety report.
Questions? Neil?
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. First of all, they say plagiarism is the sincerest form of flattery, or at least a form of flattery, and to that I see you, without copyright permission, took my chart that I've been making for the last year and inserted it on page 37. I will not charge the MTA for that, but I will ask you to keep it accurate. It is actually 47% increase, not 46 for this month, given our 1% increase in collisions. I do, however, at the same point have the same hope you do. I want to thank the governor for bringing us ORT. It was not cheap, but it, I think, has the same impact that Mitch and I both experienced recently coming over the Whitestone Bridge. It is a much better experience, and I'm looking forward, Cedric, to seeing what happens in the October data we get, because then we'll have at least maybe a little bit of time to see how it plays out. For right now, I think you guys are doing all the things we would hope you do, and we on this side will continue to be vigilant in asking about this. So thank you for that work.
Ira?
Yeah, about this data and comparing it, I just wonder, do we have the data for New York City as a whole, and how are we doing compared with New York City as far as collision rates per million vehicles, or any of these, or the other one?
We have Texas Institute that is currently looking at that. They're looking national trends, city trends, so compare with the other Port Authority, just to give us a feel of how we're going to compare. So
and
they're
comparable
currently doing
properties, right? Bridges of the same size throughout the country, things that would match up with us.
Oh, no, but I mean the same driving environment, which is New York City. I'm asking even that's why I'm asking about New York City, and not necessarily. I mean, someone's a reckless driver or whatever they're doing, they're going to be doing it on our facility and on New York City's roads. They don't discriminate. They don't think, oh, I'm on an MTA facility, I'm going to have an accident, or I'm going to be reckless. They're doing it therefore, what we do helps New York City as a whole, I would hope, also, that the actions we're taking here make people very much aware. But I also want to know how we're doing vis-a-vis the rest of the city.
I will be getting that data
Okay,
shortly.
thank you.
I've asked Polly that very question when we've been here, and she has at least said anecdotally that our crossings are much, much higher collision rates than what she's seeing. That being said, that's why these guys are bringing us. It's not till, again, when, Cedric?
January's timeframe, when we look. I mean,
Quarter of next year.
yeah, I think it's important that the type of facility is the key here. I mean, we are nodes, we're constriction points. You typically have many feeds into 2 or 3 lanes. The speed at which people travel into these points are far different than what happens on city streets. The average speed on a city street is far different than what's happening at crossings, but it's important that we understand, and what we're trying to do is be able to categorize the type of facility that we are in context with the other facilities across the country. I have colleagues across the United States who work at big facilities, Golden Gate, for example, clearly the George Washington Bridge, and those are the kind of places that we want to be able to look at.
I mean, I find it very interesting in the difference in collision rate based on the facility or the type of facility. And that's very interesting to me. Even facilities which you would think would be on par are not on par in that regard. And I'm sure that's because of the specific characteristics of that individual facility and what's happening around it in that regard. So it's, and the inability to have a lot of land available to make significant changes restricts a lot of what you can do in that regard. Now, that's not an excuse for we couldn't do better, but it does eliminate some options that might be available if there was more land available around the facility in that regard. And many of our facilities are old, and they were not meant for the amount of traffic, nor the speed of traffic, nor the frustration, human nature of people wanting to go faster than they were originally intended to do. So the change in nature of what they're used for also affects people's ability to decide what are they going to do in that regard. So, but I'll be interested to see how these change or don't as we go forward in that regard. Okay. Any other questions? Norman? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, have you guys got a grip or a read on how many people are playing with their cell phones as they cross your facilities? And is there any sort of research going on as to how to mitigate that?
We, when we were going cashless tolling, we looked at a couple of different areas of driver behavior, one being cell phone. And right now, we're about 68% higher in summonses issued on a whole. And summonses for cell phone violations, right now, we just broke 2,000. We're over 2,000 summonses across the facilities. So that's one of the things that we target as far as unsafe driver behavior, because a lot of our collisions have to do with driver inattention. So we are looking at that. As far as a study goes, I don't have information on a study, but I just know the enforcement piece.
Okay. Easy Pass report.
Yeah. Good morning.
That's a number, unlike safety, which we don't want to go up, Easy Pass, we do want to go up. So it all depends on the report.
The Easy Pass report for August begins on page 44. Our overall Easy Pass market share continues to increase. All of our facilities except the Throgs Neck and Bronx Whitestone bridges have weekday Easy Pass market shares over 90%. For August, it was 91%, the largest share ever, and 6.1% higher than the year before. Nearly 43,000 Easy Pass accounts were opened in August. Active accounts at the end of August totaled over 3.3 million, which was 9% above the active account level last year at this time. If there are no questions, I will move on to the financial report.
Any questions on Easy Pass? If not, go ahead.
The financial report begins on page 50. We are comparing results against the July mid-year forecast. The first report is on toll revenue. Toll revenue through August was about $1.263 billion, which is 0.3% or $4.4 million lower than the mid-year forecast, and that's due to the average year-to-date average toll versus forecast. For September, preliminary toll revenue is up 0.6%. Against the mid-year forecast, which brings down the current unfavorable year-to-date variance to 0.2%. Next is traffic. Through August, traffic is 0.3% above forecast at 204.3 million crossings. Preliminary September traffic is up 1% for the month, which brings the year-to-date favorable variance up to 0.4% against the July plan. The report on expenses. Total year-to-date expenses were about $316 million through August, which is about $16.5 million or 5% lower than plan. Our non-labor costs were 6.4% less than plan, or $9.4 million, due primarily to the timing of expenses. Labor costs were lower as well by about $7.1 million or 3.8%, primarily due to payroll vacancies. Our support to mass transit was more than $770 million through August, which is about $38.4 million or 5.2% better than planned. I wanted to give an update on the truck discount program that you had requested last month.
Thank you.
The program was intended to help reduce the potential traffic congestion impacts of Penn Station construction by hopefully shifting truck traffic crossing our facilities from the peak travel periods to the off-peak hours. The program provided 50% toll discounts from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. 5 nights per week, which was Sunday night to Friday morning, and it started July 9th and ended September 1st. Results indicate that there were slight shifts in truck traffic. Total truck traffic over the 8-week period was 2.2% higher than the same period in 2016. Growth in the discounted overnight period was 4.9%, or 2.7% higher than the overall trend. Trucks traveling in the AM rush period, which is from 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., were 0.6% below the overall trend, and trucks traveling in the PM rush period were 2.7% below trend. The midday period, which is 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and evening period 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., tracked 0.8% above of the overall trend. The value of the discount totaled $3.3 million, and the program's cost will be fully reimbursed by the MTA to Bridges and Tunnels, so there is no associated toll revenue loss reflected in our financial statements. This concludes the financial report.
Any questions on either of those reports? I find that last part to be very interesting and something I know I would like to consider making permanent going forward with the next toll discussion, but we'll get to that when we get to the next toll discussion context. But it is something I think we have to look at very, very seriously about how to move trucks to non-commuter hours in that regard. And if toll policy is one of the ways to do that, then we should try to do that in that regard. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Any other questions on any of those items? If not, number 8 is the preliminary budget, which is there for people to comment on. Since nobody did, so be it. And we'll move on to capital program report.
Good afternoon. The report on the capital program begins on page 64. In September, there were 7 commitments totaling $4.5 million, compared to a monthly plan calling for 11 commitments with a value of $34.7 million. There were no major commitments made in September. Year to date, 155 commitments totaling $513 million have been made, which is 97.2% of our $527.7 million annual commitment plan. This compares to a cumulative year-to-date plan of 86 commitments with a value of $462.8 million. Year-to-date, there were 9 completions totaling $423.4 million. This is 80% of our $527.8 million annual completion plan. This compares to a plan that called for 6 completions at $130.4 million. In terms of closeouts, there were 5 task level closeouts in September for 1.5 million. Year-to-date, there have been 82 task level closeouts totaling 168 million. Unless there are any questions, that completes my report.
Any questions on the capital plan report? Okay. If not, procurements?
Good afternoon. Procurements start on page 82. There are no non-competitive procurements or ratifications. There's one competitive procurement this month in the amount of $1.74 million. The one procurement is a public work modification at the Verrazano Narrows Bridge for work associated with unlocking the lower level finger joints in the amount of $1,740,928.91. Unless there are any questions, this procurement is described in detail in the enclosed staff summary.
Any questions on the procurement? If not, motion to approve. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Procurement is approved. And that completes the meeting. Is there anybody else who has anything else they want to add? If not, motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor? Thank you all very much. Thank you. Thank you. Anytime. Very dope.